Hello, this is Kirby Harris, and you are watching the Libertas Press YouTube channel. We're reporting the truth and common sense opinion. And today is news of the day, and we're going to take the headlines from Google News. And so let's get started. All right, anyway, here we go. Google News. To understand the coup in Zimbabwe, you need to know more about Grace Mugabe. There is a coup going on under Zimbabwe, and longtime Mugabe, the president, is out. Millennium's EFF party, South African, should grant Mugabe political asylum. That's from the international newszimbabwe.com. Oh, and the first story I mentioned was from the Washington Post. Let's see, Zimbabwe takeover seems like a coup, African Union says. That's reported by the BBC. Robert Mugabe's inner circle implodes. This is featured in the Atlantic. And opinion from Bloomberg, a half-hearted coup extending Zimbabwe's reign of terror. All right, next is the Senate tax plan. That's in the news, of course. The Hill says Senator Johnson is the first Republican opposed to the tax bill. Now, what you might not know about the tax bill is they're trying to tie getting rid of the individual mandate for Obamacare and that, which I am for. I don't think that the insurance companies should be able to tell us that you have to be our customer or you pay a fine or, you know, stuff like that. Let's see, related coverage. Republican Senator Robert Johnson opposes GOP Senate tax package. That's highly cited. It's in the Wall Street Journal. All basically the same thing. CNBC, Republican Senator Ron Johnson will oppose current GOP tax bill. I'll go ahead and open that one so we can read a little more about that, as well as the Robert Mugabe one. Let's see, about the shootings in California. Death toll in California shooting rises to 6 after police find body of gunman's wife. So now they see that the gunman who went all over this small town basically started with killing his wife and killed a bunch of other people. This is reported by NPR. Let's see, shooter identified as 44-year-old man who had problems with neighbors. That's from the Reading Record Searchlight. California gunman killed his wife before rampaging through community and targeting school, police say. Washington Post. Officials, 5 dead, 10 injured in Rancho Tehama mass shooting. That's from krcrtv.com. That's highly cited. And let's see, NBCnews.com says California mass shooter killed wife, buried her beneath the floor. And NBCnews.com, Sheriff Phil Johnson, California gunman wife found dead in their home. So this story unfolds. I'll open that. And then one I don't think I really need to go into too deeply. Bannon to stick with Moore, Judge Roy Moore, who is being accused of, when he was in his 30s, I guess he's in his 70s or almost 80s now. But back when he was in his 30s, people are accusing him of dating as well as inappropriate conduct with teens. Moore, he basically says, no, that's all lies, and he's not going to drop out. So Steve Bannon, a man I don't care for too much for many reasons, says, like him or not, he's a big political force. People listen to him and follow him. But Bannon is to stick with Moore, and that is according to people close to the Breitbart chief. Let's see, related coverage. Fox News says Ben Shapiro says that Roy Moore needs to go. Senator Doug Jones, ? It could happen. Not sure what that's exactly about, but you could check that out in the Washington Post. Let's see, people are questioning your sacred cows. Listen up, says Bloomberg. Not quite sure what that's about either. I guess the sacred cows are, like Hollywood and politicians, I guess. But I guess I could open that and see what that talks about, the Jones one too. Let's see, Trump says historic strides made on Asia trip, live updates. That's by CBS News. Let's see, Okay, you'll never be as happy as Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin is, looking at money with his signature on it. That's from BuzzFeed News. Let's see, caption this: Steve Mnuchin, Louise Linton pose with newly printed bills. So I guess that has something to do with printing new bills. Yeah, big story there. See, man with classic serial killer profile captured in California after escaping Hawaiian mental hospital. That's from the Washington Post. Let's see, related coverage. Documents say, let's see, the documents from the hospital say escapee had sexual relations with staff. That's pretty messed up. What's wrong with you, staff? Hawaii News Now. Violent psychopath caught by police in California after escaping Hawaiian mental hospital. USA Today. Psychopathic killer from Hawaii captured in California. Okay, on to the Zimbabwe coup. Title: To understand the coup in Zimbabwe, you need to know more about Grace Mugabe. Washington Post. Let's see. In Zimbabwe, the military has taken control of the capital, Harare, with tanks and troops stationed around the city. Its army generals officially announced at 4 a.m. local time on Wednesday that President Robert Mugabe and his family are safe and sound, and their security is guaranteed. While General Constantine Chiwenga insists it is not a military takeover, safe and secure. For those of us who study African politics, it's also code for secured. This effectively means that the first family is now under some type of arrest, and those closest to First Lady Grace Mugabe, who until the takeover appeared to be in charge in the ruling party, have been arrested for attempting to recolonize the country and undermining the revolution. Let's see. This type of coup is called a guardian coup. The army, at least for now, claims that it has no intention of staying in power longer than is needed to restore order. It remains unclear what restoring order means. At the heart of Zimbabwe's political and economic crisis is the survival of long-term ruling party ZANU-PF. In my work, I have argued that ZANU-PF survived in part because as the country's political and economic stability declined over the last decade, nearly a quarter of the adult population immigrated, leaving no one to challenge the ruling party. A weakened opposition facing a very strong, stable ZANU-PF made change unlikely. However, recently, ZANU-PF has fractured and destabilized. Why? One person whose motives are central to the crisis is Grace Mugabe. Since the last election in 2013, and under Grace Mugabe's leadership, ZANU-PF expelled key party members, including former Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa, hope I pronounced that right, which appears to have triggered the army's intervention. So all sorts of chaos and turmoil there. It doesn't surprise me. And anyway, let's move to the next story. Senator Johnson is the first Republican exposed to tax bill. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican, Wisconsin, said on Wednesday that he will not support the Senate GOP tax plan, becoming the first GOP senator to say he will oppose the proposal. Now, let's try to figure out why. If they could pass it without me, let them, Johnson told the Wall Street Journal. I'm not going to vote for this tax package. Senate Republicans have a narrow path to clearing the tax plan with a 52-seat majority. If every Democrat votes no, then they can only afford to lose 2 GOP senators and still have Vice President Pence break a tie. Johnson's office did not immediately respond to the Hill's request for comment on the report or what changes Johnson wants to see. So we might not find out why he's opposing it. But he told the Wall Street Journal that he has concerns about the proposal and that writers of the tax bill have been unreceptive to his input. I don't like that process, Johnson said. I find it pretty offensive personally. I agree with him. I mean, you want everybody who is elected on board because the people elected. Now, I mean, I don't know much about Johnson. He might be some guy that I might not like. He might be some guy I like. I don't really know. Don't know anything about him really. But Johnson noted he has been trying to get hearings from both the Senate Finance Committee, which wrote the Senate bill, and the House Ways and Means Committee, but has been rebuffed by party leadership. It's not like I'm just coming out of the woodwork all of a sudden raising it. I've been talking to my colleagues a long time. I presented the idea months ago, Johnson said. Johnson's opposition to the tax plan is the latest hurdle for Republicans as they try to get a bill to President Trump's desk by the end of the year. The Senate Finance Committee is expected to vote on the bill this week, with a full Senate vote expected after the week-long Thanksgiving recess. As part of the vote-a-rama, an hours-long floor session, Johnson would be able to force a vote on any potential changes he wants to the tax plan. Though Johnson is the first GOP senator to formally say they will oppose the current version of the proposal, other GOP senators have raised concerns about the plan. GOP Senators Jeff Flake, Arizona, and Bob Corker, Tennessee, have warned that the tax bill shouldn't impact the deficit. I remain concerned over how the current tax reform proposals will grow the already staggering national debt by opting for short-term fixes while ignoring long-term problems for taxpayers and the economy, Flake said in a statement after the Senate proposal was rolled out last week. Real quick, I just want to say that my problem with the tax bill is it added a new higher tax bracket, even though it made it pretty high for you to qualify for it, and it kept almost all the tax brackets at this point. At least the House one did. I'm not sure much about the Senate one. I haven't found much to read about the Senate one, but the House one, basically they made it so you pretty much, I think they did get rid of some, but they added a few, and then they raised how much you had to make to fall into the current tax bracket. So in a way, it's kind of like a tax cut, but they also wanted to get rid of deductions like the state and local tax deductions, which would basically erase for a lot of people what the new tax bracket would cut for them. So it's just a big mess. I am for repealing the individual mandate, so I hope that goes through, but we will see. All right. The death toll California shooting rises to 6 after police find body of gunman's wife. This is from NPR. Police have identified the gunman who killed 5 people and put 10 others in the hospital in a Rancho Tehama, California on Tuesday as 43-year-old Kevin Johnson Neal. So that's his name, Kevin Johnson Neal. Tehama County Sheriff Phil Johnson and Neal said Neal had 2 semi-automatic rifles he made himself, adding that they were obtained in an illegal manner. It was initially thought that a total of 5 people had died, including Neal, but Johnson said in an update on Wednesday that an additional body had been found, Neal's wife. He said that her body was found under the floor of Neal's home and that police believe that's what started this whole event. I think he had a desire to kill as many people as he could, Johnson said. It is monumental that that school went on lockdown, Johnson said, of the school's quick response to the crisis, noting the numerous ammunition magazines that had been found. He added, I really, truly believe that we would have had a horrific bloodbath at that school if Neal had been able to get inside. So he wasn't able to get inside, and the lockdown helped save a lot of lives, a lot of children. No children were killed, but 1 was shot at the school. Others were injured by flying debris, such as broken glass, Johnson said. He said that the father of one of the students had been shot and killed at a separate location. Johnson urged other schools to practice their lockdown procedures. We live in an age where we just don't know, he said. Authorities are still picking through the 7 crime scenes the rampage left behind in Rancho Tehama, California, including the local elementary school. As they do so, a few key facets of the chaotic day are beginning to become clear. The motive behind the seemingly random shooting and how the decisive actions of the school staff saved a terrible day from becoming something much, much worse. All right, it goes on, but I'll go ahead and put the articles in the the description below, and that way you can read more if you wish to. Okay, let's see. People are questioning your sacred cows. Listen up. I thought this was kind of interesting, involving the Roy Moore situation. There's good reason to scrutinize claims like Roy Moore's mall story. It's certainly not to protect a pedophile. Twitter had a festive evening after the New Yorker ran an article alleging that Senate candidate Roy Moore was banned, excuse me, from an Alabama shopping mall sometime around 1980. His offense? You will be unsurprised by reports emerging now that say he had a reputation for trying to pick up teenage girls. Roy Moore was banned from a mall. Banned from a mall, tweeted Jonathan Chait of New York Magazine. And in the ensuing hours, I saw roughly 1 trillion versions of that statement. It might have been a quadrillion. I lost count, says the author. First of all, I find the women who have accused more credible. The behavior they describe ranges between ick and child molester. I think Moore should withdraw his candidacy, and if he refuses, I think Alabama voters should select any opponent who did not attempt to date a 14-year-old girl when they were in their 30s. Nonetheless, I'm skeptical about the mall story. No one in the New Yorker story seems to have been directly involved with the alleged mall ban. Every source who was willing, even eager to talk, seems to have heard the story from someone else. It seems probable that there was a rumor floating around that Moore was banned from the mall. It seems possible that this rumor was even true, but it's still also possibly false. Those of us over a certain age will remember how many compelling yet false urban legends we believed before Snopes.com was invented. Okay. You can't trust Snopes. So I don't care what Snopes says about anything. I take what they say with a grain of salt. They're very biased. But anyway, back to the article. And who was the source for every one of those legends? That stalwart figure, a friend of a friend. So without better confirmation than 35 years ago, I heard from a guy that Roy Moore got banned from the mall. I will withhold judgment on whether Moore was actually banned. I tweeted as much after I read the New Yorker story and was immediately inundated with aggressive accusations of covering up for a child molester and general partisan hackery. I am not generally identified as a member of Team Trump, much less Team Roy Moore. Indeed, prior to my tweet about the mall story, I've been saying some fairly astringent things about the people who were attacking Moore's accusers, or worse, saying, but Democrats covered up Bill Clinton. I just didn't happen to think this particular story was very strong. So anyway, in Bloomberg, this person, Megan McArty, apparently a female, named Megan, I assume, never know nowadays, isn't a Moore guy, believes a lot of the accusers, but doesn't trust the mall story because it's he said, she said type of stuff. All right. Wondering what that was about. Senator Doug Jones, it could happen. Senate Republicans have been, okay, this is the Washington Post, have been agonizing over the possible scenarios of dealing with Moore. They are hoping that they're hoping that the Alabama Republican will voluntarily withdraw his controversial candidacy. That's a mouthful right there. If he refuses, GOP leaders are threatening expulsion hearings once he gets to the Senate. One scenario is not receiving enough contemplation, Senator Doug Jones. It's becoming increasingly plausible that former U.S. attorney will overcome steep odds and become the first Democrat elected by the Senate by Alabama voters in over 25 years. It's still too early to say that Jones is the front runner, but what had been a fairly comfortable lead for Moore has been upended since last week's Washington Post report about allegations the former judge dated teenage girls when he was 30, a 30-something local prosecutor, including 2 accusations of inappropriate sexual conduct. So I guess they're saying Doug Jones, a Democrat, could be winning. I didn't even know who was running against Moore. So that's one reason I checked this story, had no clue who that was. All right. So those are the stories of the day, and I am so glad that I could bring them to you today on the Libertas Press YouTube channel, where we're trying to report the truth and give common sense opinion. So those are the stories for today, Wednesday, November 15th, 2017. All right. God bless. Have a great day. Bye-bye.